Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm Katie Bishop. I'm an energy healer and founder of the Earth Bishop Natural Healing Practice. I'm also a teacher of sacred mysteries. And today I have a very special guest with me. Her name is Ragnhild, and she's the founder of the new Viking, where she puts on retreats on an international level. And I met Ragnhild by going to one of her retreats, and I got to experience um, the magic that she brings to not only the experience of being immersed in a retreat like environment, but her specialty in meditation and yoga nidra. And I wanted to have a discussion with her today to share some of our experiences and some of our learnings and teachings and expertise in this area, in this field, and what has brought us together to do workshops and partner together. And we're going to be doing our first retreat together as well this fall. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Ragnhild. I call her Rags. And Rags, go ahead. Did I tell me what I missed in your intro? Anything you want to add?
First of all, thank you, Katie, for that introduction. And no, with regards to the retreats, I never thought I would be doing this, and it's kind of life works in mysterious ways. It just kind of I wouldn't say it happened by itself because everything I've done till now brought me to where I am, but I actually came to doing meditation from going through difficult personal things. I think at one stage in our lives, everyone goes through something very difficult. And, as we all find out, there's nothing in the external world that we can really do or put into ourselves that's going to help you deal with whatever it is you need to deal with. And I came to meditation, although I tried it many, many years ago. I went to India probably 25 years ago. And that's the first time I really tried meditation and was quite fascinated by it. I thought it was quite a painful experience the first time, but it did have a certain fascination for me, and I dabbled in it. But it wasn't until I went through a personal life crisis that I started using it really in a more determined manner to access higher levels of consciousness, obviously, but most of all to deal with stress. And like until I could get past that, I didn't really start to see all the other benefits of meditating. And I would say I was a pretty anxious person before, like very could get very nervous, and in a good way sometimes because nervousness and excitement can help propel you to do a lot of things, but it can also it destroys your nervous system and it really starts to affect your health. And definitely the anxiety that I was dealing with was not good for my health. And meditation really helped me on so many levels to deal with that. And I decided I wanted to use it to help people. And I had been on a couple of retreats with a life coach and with a yoga teacher, and this sort of retreat that's maybe more common. And I at one point I wanted to start doing retreats on my own, and the first one was actually planned for March 17th, 2020, which obviously had to be canceled. And I had just finished my meditation teacher training that I did I wanted to get a certification so I could say, like, I officially know how to teach this. Um, and then I started teaching online. So the pandemic kind of propelled me into doing it online just to help people deal with anxiety. Everybody was anxious for one reason or another. And then the retreats only happened a couple of years later when I'd already been teaching online for quite a while. And
Yeah.
then, yeah, the retreats is a lot more than meditation. It's also just immersing yourself in a new culture with a new group of people. And we do all kinds of excursions and creative exercises. And we learn about different themes. Like one time was human design, another time was astrology, sound healing. But meditation is kind of the mainstay, like the daily dose of, let's say, consciousness that I always bring into whatever it is I do.
Yeah. You know, when I went to your retreat a few years ago, I had my first yoga nidra experience ever, and that was with you. And I didn't know about yoga nidra. I had not tried it before. I was familiar with meditation, but yoga nidra is a different animal. And that experience was life changing. And one of the things, as you know, that I work on with people is their higher self and bringing through their true calling and their mission in life. And when I experienced yoga nidra with you, I thought, whoa, this woman is doing her mission. She was meant to be a facilitator of yoga nidra, no doubt about it. You have the gift of that. For those who are not familiar with yoga nidra, would you give a little definition or overview of what yoga nidra is and how it works?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, this is also a practice that I kind of stumbled upon because when I was doing one of the retreats in Norway, I hired a yoga teacher in the mountains to come do a class for us. And it turned out she was also a yoga nidra expert. And I knew yoga nidra had something to do with lying down in shavasana and corpse pose and relaxing, but I didn't realize it's a whole subject. On its own. And in fact, yoga nidra means yogic sleep. It's a state between waking and sleeping, almost like a hypnotic state where you can access really deep levels of subconsciousness. This you can also do in meditation, but the main difference, the way I like to explain it, so that you can kind of logically grasp it, is that meditation requires a lot of discipline. You're usually in a seated position, and you need to focus your mind. You need to rein it back in, whether you're using mantras or breathing techniques or visualization. But visualization is kind of a trap because that you get your mind working again. But so meditation is a disciplined practice. Yoga Nidra is more of a surrender, right? You're going into a sleep-like state and you're being guided by somebody else. You cannot really do it on your own because then you would have to talk to yourself, which would kind of not have the same effect. And so by being guided, then you can really truly let go, and you're also lying down. So your body is in a position also of surrender. And people, people just love it. They're like, wait, do I get to lie down? So you're in such a relaxed state that you can more easily, I would say, access deeper levels of consciousness than by practicing meditation on your own. At least it would take many years to get to that same place, and it takes a lot more practice. I mean, some people are very good at teaching this also. For example, Joe Dispenza is teaching meditation techniques, but you have to do the work. And in Yoga Nidra, it's kind of, I wouldn't say lazy because you do have to focus on what you're hearing, but it's a little bit easier way of accessing this deep state of relaxation and deeper states of awareness and consciousness. And so that you get a taste of it, and that can motivate you to also try other forms of meditation later on.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. It really hits that sweet spot where you're that in between state of awake and asleep. And that is the focal point of when you're trying to break through consciousness and get to
Mm,
that super consciousness level to work on reprogramming or breaking barriers and blocks and
mhm,
break yourself free from patterns, looping
mhm.
patterns. Yoga Nidra is a really powerful technique that's really enjoyable. You know,
Very enjoyable. Yeah, it's like a mini vacation.
it is, and like the little journeys you take people on with your Yoga Nidra are beautiful. Um, and I kind of work in that world as well with um, removing spiritual blockages and energy blocks and helping people get unstuck,
Mm,
looping patterns and destructive behaviors and destructive thoughts. And I do that through shadow work. I work with people really closely on identifying their shadow aspects, which are usually hard to identify on your own because it's something that so becomes so programmed and becomes such a part of you that you almost need someone on the outside to help you identify where your blocks are. And these are usually things that are affiliated with trauma or insecurities or fears, self doubt, things like that. And while I focus so much time on that, and there's a big push, I feel like, in the spiritual community now to focus on shadow work because it's so powerful and it's so effective. It's really important to also make sure that you balance shadow work with bringing in your higher self,
Hmm.
healing your inner child with that. Because what happens with shadow work and when you're removing these blocks, you're creating space, you're opening up space, and you want to make sure that you're filling that space with the best version of yourself. And this is where I talk about higher self, this version of you that is within you but also without outside of you, because it's the eternal piece of you that never dies, that lives outside of the space and time construct that's guiding you. You know, that's kind of the voice of your soul that you can tune into when you're in a state of yoga nidra and you don't have all those barriers or all of that programming, social engineering getting in the way. And you can hear the purity of the voice of your own soul or your higher self.
Hmm.
So, part of bringing that voice through and being embodied in that best version of yourself is creativity and it's imagination and it's playfulness. And, you know, Rags, for those who don't know, Rags and I are both working moms and have been. So we get the drain of this world and the demands of the monetary system and being a parent and all of these things. And it's so hard to think of when am I going to have time to play or be creative or really have time to let go and do something that isn't productive. You know, we're so wired and programmed to produce, produce, produce. So, one of the things Rags and I are really trying to focus on is helping um, people embody that playfulness, bring that back, bring that spark back, bring that inner child back, get into a state of joy again, because this is where your heart and your soul and your personality is going to flourish. And Rags is so good at this. And I want to go ahead and let you talk more about a lot of the things that you work on with people from a creativity standpoint.
Yeah, absolutely. I think creativity has been like a huge part of my life, but always something I considered like as a hobby and like a thing I do on the side to kind of get through all the other boring stuff. I'm not talking about meditation, but like in other things that, all of us have to-do lists. And when I had let's say a normal 9 to 5 job, or even just the things you need to do at home, right? You tend to forget about yourself sometimes, and you may notice at times you flatline a little bit emotionally, or you're not so excited about things because everything becomes a chore. And that's the time when you really need to allow yourself to be creative for creativity's sake, and dip into and dabble with things that interest you, you're curious about, even if it's just a few minutes a day. You could look at it as another tool like meditation or exercise, but it's really something to stimulate your frequency, right? Because immediately think about when you have laughed really hard the last time in your life. Hopefully it's not too long ago, but when you laugh really hard, your frequency will immediately go through the roof, right? You cannot be sad and super happy and laughing at the same time. That's very difficult. So I think we tend to underestimate creativity. And I know that I've been in contact with some people, I like to say my past life, who were like, oh, well, creativity, like that's not going to pay the bills or whatever. But I mean, for a lot of people, creativity does pay the bills. And also, it's such an easy and most of the time free way to get your frequency higher, and then you can enjoy things more. And then it's just like instead of going into a vicious circle, going into a positive circle. You look at things in a more positive way, you become more productive, people around you are happier, then you feel happier. It's like it's such an easy way to get the momentum going in a positive way.
Yeah,
That's
it's become
what.
a magnet.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And it also gets you in touch with your intuition, which is something most people have become so disconnected from. because there's so much social engineering and there's so much projection of maybe of what your parents put onto you or what society puts onto you of what people expect for you to be.
Mm,
And when you're able to break free from that and remember who you were before people told you who you thought you were supposed to be,
mm.
a whole new world opens up and you get more in touch with your intuition and your own it's almost like getting back into that state of childlike awe and wonder where anything's possible, and when you get into that state your perception expands, and that's where the creative ideas come in, because that's when you start thinking of things that people haven't thought of before. You go to a new plane in your mind space of what's possible. And that's when you start pulling in opportunities and you becoming a magnet to opportunities and people and places and things that are going to sing to your soul, that are going to be in alignment with your higher self. And that's, something that all of these meditation practices are really ultimately designed to do. And in doing this, you might uncover what are called golden shadows. And these are areas of your life, and that you've talked about this before, Rags, where maybe when you were younger you loved to do something. Maybe it was play the piano or paint, and maybe someone criticized you really roughly, or maybe you had a traumatic experience around it and then you shut it down. You stopped doing it. And now as an adult, when you go back and you're playing and you're being creative, you bring those things back and you might rediscover, oh my God, why did I stop doing that? I loved it just because someone criticized me. I don't care. I'm going to keep doing it, or I'm going to take dance lessons. I'm going to take piano lessons even though it doesn't produce anything. I need to do that for my soul, for my own ability to flourish and thrive and be um, a happy, fulfilled, thriving human being for myself and for everyone else that I'm in contact with. Um, so that's really, the work that you do and the way you impact people provides that effect. It gives people, it reminds them of who they truly are. And all the things you write about, for those that don't know, you can go to Rag's website, and I'll put all of our information in below. But, sign up for her emails because she does a beautiful writing. How often is that? Every week you write one of those?
It's supposed to be more or less every week. There was a little bit of a pause this winter, but more or less every week, yeah, I sent out a newsletter.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it was wild because when you're in alignment with your soul, all the synchronicities start happening. And I was doing a podcast and I had mentioned something about caterpillars and AI, and there was this AI making the caterpillars do all these really cool things. But the lesson of the story is we're not here to be better caterpillars. We're here to be butterflies. Something that AI can't do. It's organic. It's because of who we are as human, our human heart and our human soul that allows us to become butterflies. And Rags simultaneously wrote something in her newsletter, all this beautiful story about caterpillars and the transformational process. And at the same time, I was getting all of these messages that I need to do a retreat in person finally, and um, all of these caterpillar themes were coming up. And so we connected and we created this retreat. And it turns out we're doing it at a place that has a butterfly center. And it was just, this is like the perfect example of how everything gets magnetized when you're in alignment and it's meant to be, and it's all come together. And Rags, do you want to share anything else about the butterfly story? Because it's so special.
Well, I've always been fascinated by butterflies and the whole, especially the symbolic, the meaning of butterflies and the whole process of how they become butterflies. And I think some of it was from just family history. That my great great grandfather was a jeweler, and he made a lot of butterflies and enamel. So I was always very like mesmerized by this beautiful butterfly and why he was interested in the butterfly. And then my logo is loosely inspired by a butterfly. And then I had written this newsletter. My dog's name is Butterfly in Aborigine, actually, Bindi. And and then I had written, yeah, this newsletter about butterfly just kind of came up like, okay, it's time to write about the whole chrysalis, the transformation process, and how it's very messy and you kind of don't see the end product. And then when you come out on the other side, then you can spread your wings. And I called it Time to Fly. And just as I had written this, you contacted me, Katie, and said, let's do a retreat together. Isn't it time? And I said, Leah, yeah, let's do it. How about we call it Time to Fly? Did you read my last newsletter? And she said, no, I haven't had time, but I just spoke about that. So the crazy thing is we didn't even know we were on the exact same, on that exact same frequency at the same time. And then you said, you're not going to believe this. The resort that I had in mind has a butterfly center. And that was like the third, the third coincidence, right? Or there are no coincidences. So, and then before we could even start promoting this, we've already got a bunch of people signed up. So, if you want to know more, if you're interested, definitely get in contact with Katie. I'm sure you'll put all the information below, down
Yeah,
here or down there.
yeah,
And
I'll put it all the information, and it's all on earthbishop.com. But I'll put all of the links and information on there. And yeah, the retreat is set up like a chrysalis, because those who understand what it's like to go through a spiritual transformation, or to break free from programming, or to make breakthroughs in your own spiritual development, it's messy and it's ugly, and you want to be in a safe chrysalis environment. And that's what we're creating in this retreat, is this safe space, this safe container to go through this metamorphosis process, this transformational process, to shed the old and let go of what's no longer serving you. That can be really painful. So, Rags and I put together this program to allow a safe space for this to happen, and then bring in the creativity, bring in the play, bring in the
mm,
joy, bring in the true self, bring in the embodiment of how you want to live your life, of who you really want to be, and bringing that to life so that you will be changed after this retreat. This is your time to fly. We're learning to fly. So, yeah, and I'll put all of that, like we said, below. Um,
yeah, and can I just add something?
yeah,
I think even if you might not feel like, oh, I'm going through something very painful right now, but you just maybe you just need a little bit of a spark back in your life, or you just want to have a nice weekend to enjoy, you will learn something and you can be as involved or as withdrawn as you want. Like I'm all about like freedom, so we'll have all the different modules and the different classes set up, and then you do what you want and you share what you want. And if you need a little bit more time to go and admire the gardens or rest in your room or go to the spa, you can do that too. So it's really I I don't think you should look at the chrysalis concept or the retreat as some kind of scary process where you're going to have to bare your soul or open up about something difficult. It's just transformation. Wherever you're at, you will get something out of your personal cocoon space, and we'll be there to facilitate that.
yeah, exactly. And you'll be there to make friends too, people who are in the same mindset. And we're going to laugh, and we're going to have fun, and we're going to open up space for playfulness, for creativity. So, um, anyways, I don't want to go on too much more about it, but I wanted to make sure everyone knew that we have that coming this October. And, Rags, I want to be respectful of your time. Is there anything else you want to share?
No, I think we covered a lot of things. I'd love to tell anybody more if they want to know more about meditation or read my newsletter or join on any upcoming programs. And I'm sure that Katie and I will be speaking again soon about this or some other subject. So yeah, I mean, if I were to share anything, it's just like I just keep even if you think meditation is a chore, and I hear a lot of people say, oh, I can't do it because I think too much. Well, that's kind of like saying I can't brush my teeth because they're too dirty, right? Like everything is a practice. So even if you can just do a few minutes sitting in silence every day and not be attached to the outcome, not being attached to it looking a certain way or getting some amazing out of the world result. Most days it's just like taking a shower and that's it. It will just quiet your mind. But changing 1% a day or even a half a percent a day, your trajectory, you'll end up in a whole different place. Isn't that what they say? It's just keep going at it and you'll start to feel the effects.
I love that. The 1% rule. If you can just do that teeny little bit, one little baby step every day, you'll be transformed in a year. And the meditation and getting into that space of silence, it's critical. It has to happen. That is the space where the ego can't operate. The ego doesn't operate in silence. It doesn't operate in meditation. You're
Mm.
beyond that. You're at oneness. So, getting used to being able to get into that mindset is so important. Even if it's just 1 minute a day, everyone can do that. So, um, well, thank you so much. And I definitely recommend everyone get on Rag's newsletter. Her writings and insights are wonderful, and she has an amazing story. She's an amazing soul, amazing heart, and I'm so excited to be doing this retreat with her in person. So I hope you join us. And with that, take care, and we hope to see you in October.